Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about why jet lag is actually a myth and how to avoid it. I want to give a first disclaimer here, and that is domestic jet lag. Now, people always give me a hard time about this, but internally on the team at Self-Publishing School, friends, family members, I'm always giving them a hard time when they complain about jet lag, because quite frankly, I think it doesn't exist, and it's something that's created in your mind. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the mindset behind why jet lag's a myth and how to avoid it, and then I'm going to give you some practical steps on how to actually avoid jet lag. Now, why is this a myth? Well, obviously this is domestic jet lag. So if you're flying like to Australia or to China or to somewhere just really super far flight, that is a thing. But most of the time people complain about jet lag when they're traveling domestically or within 2 or 3 time zones. Now the mindset, first things first, is that you're speaking this into existence. So I'm a firm believer of, I've got another video that's called Watch Your Language, and I talk about how we speak things into existence. Now because you're speaking this into existence, that's why you feel tired. Now here's the thing, if you're traveling a couple time zones over, it doesn't exist. Think about this. You wouldn't say to a friend, because I hear people complain about jet lag for days. It'll be 6, 7 days later and they're like,
oh my gosh, I just still haven't recovered from jet lag. It was just so tough. You know, I flew in from the East Coast yesterday to Denver.
Or whatever the flight was. And so it's, you know, going for days and days and days. And it's just them validating how they feel tired, but it's this weird loop and this weird cycle. Now, you wouldn't ever say, oh my gosh, 6 days ago, I stayed up 2 hours later than I usually stay up, and I'm just still feeling it. And that's the difference, right? Because really the only difference with jet lag is that you're missing out on maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep. You're throwing off your sleep rhythm just a little bit, but that's the only thing. And so if you first conquer the mindset, and I'm just of the belief that I just say, yeah, it doesn't exist and it doesn't affect me. So I believe that it doesn't exist, and when people try to fight me on that, I say, okay, cool. Even if it does exist, it just doesn't affect me. So my mindset is that I will not be affected, and so therefore I'm not affected. So let me give you some practical next steps and some practical things that you can do to avoid it in the first place. Tip number 1, always carry earplugs and a face mask. So I do this no matter what, and this is kind of this is a life hack and a sleep hack in general, and I talk about this in my how to take a nap video and how to improve the quality of your sleep, but I always have earplugs and a face mask because you can control your sleeping environment. This means that you can sleep on planes, this means that you can sleep when you land, no matter whether it's light outside, dark outside, whatever that thing is, but just by having those 2 things, I can pretty much sleep and take a nap anywhere. Now, speaking of sleep, the second thing that you want to do is actually have a sleep playlist. And I know this sounds kind of funny, but when we're talking about habit loops, so The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, great book, and I've talked about this in kind of some of my other videos on creating habits, but a habit loop says that there's a cue, routine, and reward. So the cue for me is that I walk onto the plane. The routine is whenever I'm ready to fall asleep, I play the same exact, it's the afternoon acoustic playlist on Spotify, so it's the same exact playlist, and I actually start with the same exact song. So it's a routine, and then the reward is I get great sleep, I wake up usually when we land or you know, sometime after, and I'm feeling rested. So there's a cue, routine, and reward. There's a habit loop. So it's a trigger. So I sit down in my seat, and whenever I'm ready to fall asleep, I press that song, lean my head back, either have my face mask or earplugs, or I just pull my hat down, and then I'm off to sleep. Tip number 3, do not drink alcohol. And this also applies to the food that you eat. It's very easy when you're traveling to drink alcohol and to eat unhealthy food. But actually, and this is kind of crazy, I learned this recently from my brother, but when you are flying, your stomach doesn't digest food properly. Have you ever noticed that you don't see flight attendants usually eating on planes? That's because they know this. And they know that when you land, all the food hits your stomach and then starts to break down. So that's why you feel tired, because it's kind of your body going into overdrive to process that food. So whenever possible, eat as healthy as possible and as little as possible, and do not drink alcohol. I know if you're going into airport lounges like me, or if you get upgraded on the plane, that they're practically throwing alcohol at you and giving it to you for free, which is very hard to avoid. But if at all possible, do not do it because you'll thank yourself later and it'll just help with kind of brain fog and you won't feel as tired. Now, I will admit sometimes I'll drink a glass of wine and that actually helps me go to sleep faster on the plane, but it's kind of a temporary fix and something that I don't recommend. Tip number 4, lastly, if you're flying West Coast to East Coast, this is kind of probably one of the toughest flights to avoid jet lag on. There's 2 things that you need to do there. Number 1, always bring melatonin. Okay, so melatonin, this helps you go to sleep better. And so I always bring that so that when I land, so maybe you're landing at 10 or 11 or 12 or whatever the time is, but it feels like if you're coming from the West Coast that it's 8 or 9. So you'll have trouble falling asleep. Now this is where most people, they'll end up staying up till 2 in the morning, and then they have to get up at 6 or 8 or whatever that is to go speak at a conference or to go to an event or whatever that thing is. Now, if you take melatonin basically on your Uber ride from the airport to where you're going, you'll be able to fall asleep quickly. It takes about 30 minutes to kick in. And so you'll be able to fall asleep quickly when you get to your destination. Now, the second thing and the other option is if you're taking a red eye, so I'm taking a red eye a couple days from now, I'll take melatonin on the way to the airport. So that actually, as soon as my butt hits the seat in the plane, I'm sleeping. And now I can get a full 5, maybe 6 hours of sleep and wake up in the time zone. I prefer red eyes going west to east coast. You are a little bit tired and I am a little bit tired, but at least I'll get 5, 6 hours of sleep. I can take a nap when I get there, and that's how I avoid jet lag, save time, all those things when I'm getting to my destination. So there you have it. That's why jet lag doesn't exist. You can give me a hard time. I'm sure this will spark some debate in the comments, but I really think it's a mindset thing. So it first starts with changing your mindset, and then it moves into the practical steps that I covered to avoid it in the first place. So I'd love to hear from you. Comment below, let me know. Do you think, is jet lag a myth? What do you do to avoid it? Anything that I missed here, comment below and let me know. As always, click the subscribe button, subscribe for more videos just like this, and I'll see you in the next one.